In the 1600s, Spanish was the language of government, education, and trade throughout the Philippines. However, in a study done by the Instituto Cervantes of Manila in 2010, it was found out that a mere 1% of Filipinos spoke Spanish. So what happened to Philippine Spanish? Where have the Filipino native speakers of Spanish gone to? In the late 1800s, a Katipunero and lawyer by the name of Don Luciano de la Rosa conducted a study, and he found out that around 60% of the Filipino population during his time spoke Spanish as a second language. In comparison, around 10% of Filipinos spoke it as a first language in the North American census. Both of these numbers, however, went downhill due to a series of wars, among other things. One of which is the war between the First Philippine Republic and the United States of America, where, according to historian James Goodnow, around 1/6 of the Filipino population, or around 1.5 million Filipinos, died in the hands of the new colonizers, most of which were the brightest of Filipinos who were familiar with the concepts of independence and freedom, and most of which were Spanish-speaking. World War II also dealt a severe blow to the Spanish language in the Philippines. With it came the death of millions of Filipinos, many of whom are Spanish-speaking. In the Battle of Manila, over 100,000 people died, either by the Japanese Manila Massacre or by the American air bombing of Manila. In the clashes that followed, 90% of Spanish-owned buildings and institutions were destroyed, and Intramuros and Ermita were the hardest hit, thus dismantling the heart of Hispanic life in Manila. With the United States effectively winning 3 wars on Philippine territory during its Philippine occupation, English was imposed as the language of the victor, and ultimately, Spanish was left behind. Aside from those wars, the educational system continued by the Americans, although commendable in its own right, was also a factor in the fall of the Spanish language in the Philippines. This was then made worse as parts of its curriculum interlaced with the Spanish Black legend, thus proving to be a breeding ground for Hispanophobia among Filipinos, and resulted to the conditioning of unconscious biases Filipinos have against the Spanish language. Furthermore, social and political changes in the 70s and 80s also saw the removal of Spanish as an official and instructional language. Spanish today is only spoken by a minority in the Philippines. However, there is a renewed interest in the language, and its future seems hopeful. As bright as it may seem though, at the end of the day, it will all depend on the Filipinos, especially to those Filipinos who, according to the words of Manuel Quezon, have the wisdom and patriotism of preserving the Spanish language. Follow us and be a part of the conversation.